What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. I want to kick off today's show by talking about a guy I personally did not expect the Bulls to retain and for him to be on the roster for this upcoming season, and he's still here. I think it's very surprising that they kept Jevon Carter around and in the mix of young prospects and seasoned veterans. One player stands out as a guiding presence in the backcourt when you look at this roster now as we sit here just days away from the start of training camp, and that's Jevon Carter, known for his defensive tenacity and his career 37.9% shooting percentage from beyond the arc. Jevon Carter enters his third season in a Bulls uniform and his eighth season in the NBA overall here. He now faces a slightly different role than what was previously expected of him upon arriving here to Chicago. And I just think that, when you look at a guy like that, he will definitely be able to test both his adaptability and his impact on a developing roster this coming season, as the Bulls are going to be trying out a lot of new combinations of players in terms of the young guys and different expectations for him, most definitely as we move into the 2025-26 season. So, when you look at him overall throughout the 24-25 season, Carter's role in Chicago took a noticeable step back compared to previous years after establishing himself as a key defensive stopper throughout his first 6 seasons in the league. His minutes were nearly cut in half from his career average this past year, and that's kind of why I was leaning towards the Bulls kind of parting ways with him altogether, but apparently they still see the value in what he could bring to this young roster. Despite limited opportunity, Carter remained a decently reliable presence on the floor. His defensive instincts and perimeter shooting continued to provide value, particularly when Lonzo Ball was sidelined with injury, and that was quite often, unfortunately, for Lonzo there. Beginning the transition into a smaller role last season may serve him well as he prepares to adapt and adopt the evolving needs of a younger developing team in the Chicago Bulls this coming season. So he's the second oldest player on the team as it currently stands as well, which is kind of crazy because he's not all that old. His presence and guidance in the locker room is going to be something that positions him both as a mentor and an on-court coach in a lot of ways. And I know he's not truly an older guy, but he is one of the older guys on this roster, and his near decade-long NBA tenure allows him to make subtle contributions that elevate the young players around him. And I really think Billy Donovan will look to him to do that, especially if they plan on keeping him around, for the foreseeable future. If he finds a way into meaningful game action, his reliability as a 3-and-D guard creates the spacing needed for younger guards to flourish as well. So there's a positive spin to what he brings to the floor. And as Chicago moves forward in this retool, the front office's ability to balance youth alongside veteran experience will define this team's trajectory. I think no matter how young you are and no matter how much you want to focus on rebuilding and planning for the future, you still need to have veteran presence on every roster. I mean, Oklahoma City had it last year with Alex Caruso, and Alex Caruso is a bit of a different story. He's still a perennial player in this league, but you bring guys in that are veteran leaders, and then that could bring and elevate your team to all new heights there. And you kind of saw that in the Western Conference with the OKC Thunder ultimately winning their, an NBA championship there. So, just some thoughts on Jevon Carter. I know I wasn't too bullish on him making the roster this upcoming season. You guys probably remember from the start of the show, I anticipated him being cut, but we'll see what happens for his future in Chicago here. I wanted to kind of switch gears, talk about Josh Giddey being snubbed from ESPN's top 100 list. This was a list I've been kind of rolling out to you guys in recent episodes as ESPN's released it, but Josh Giddey not making this list is a bit of a surprise for me. Kobe White obviously coming in, I think it was 71 or something like that, but all things considered, this feels like one of the most significant snubs, especially when we consider that ESPN carved out some extra space by removing guys like Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, DeJounte Murray, and Fred VanVleet from the list, obviously all being hurt and injured there. Giddey was also held off the top 100 heading into last season, but this felt far more justifiable. He was fresh off arguably the worst season of his career, I should say, which included a postseason benching due to his shooting and defensive shortcomings there. The Oklahoma City Thunder ultimately decided to trade him away, as we know, which left everyone with more questions than answers on the young guard. Giddey proceeded to have a pretty strong bounce-back year, I would say, in Chicago. He averaged a career high in assists at 7.2 a game and rebounds at 8.1 rebounds a game, while scoring 14.6 points a night. The 22-year-old flashes some genuine growth from beyond the arc as well this past season. He shot 37% on 4 attempts per game from beyond the arc. He looked more comfortable than ever before after the All-Star break there, averaging 21.2 points a game to go along with 10.7 rebounds a game and 9.3 assists over his last 19 games of last season here. Really came into his own, ultimately earning him that monster extension that the Bulls signed him to. The Bulls also went, and I've talked about this many times, 12-7 over that stretch post All-Star break. That was the run that really kind of put the Bulls into position to be in the play-in tournament once again. And Josh Giddey ultimately got him there. He led the way. So, I'm honestly surprised that he didn't at least crack that list altogether. I think he's a very significant player for this Bulls organization. He showed that this past season, and it's going to be a big part of their plans for the next 3 to 4 years here as he sticks around in Chicago, continues to build his legacy as a young player in this league. So a bit of a snub there. The list did roll out its top 10 players. I think a lot of you guys will be interested to hear this. Jalen Brunson coming in at 10, of no surprise there. The Eastern Conference final, the finalists in the Eastern Conference, I should say, the New York Knicks, were led by Jalen Brunson largely this past season. Jalen Brunson's been a monster everywhere he's been, from Dallas to New York. This guy is just a perennial ball player, so not surprised he came in there at 10. You have the top 10 rounding out with Kevin Durant at 9. LeBron at 8. You have Steph Curry at 7. Ant Edwards at 6. You got Wemby at 5, which I think it's kind of crazy throwing Wemby up there. That just shows you how much of an all-world talent this kid really is. I mean, he's only been around in the NBA for a short time, but this guy is such an impact in the league that they're going to throw him at 5. I like that. I think San Antonio has a gem in Victor Wembanyama there. You have Giannis at 4, Luka Doncic at 3, SGA at 2, and then the best player on this list, the best player in the NBA, comes as no surprise, but Nikola Jokic. Joker earning the top honor there. Joker is a special talent. This guy continues to do things night in and night out that you just shake your head at. Like, what, no one's ever seen this in the game before. And he keeps on one-upping his performances year after year to make himself kind of cemented as the top player in today's game. So the Denver Nuggets are certainly a fun team to watch night in and night out because of Nikola Jokic. But that list overall, that top 10 is a very solid one at that. I think they got it right for the most part. Anthony Edwards, obviously, continues to do what he does for that Minnesota team, honestly carrying them for the last couple of years. Steph Curry, the future Hall of Famer, obviously landing himself on that list to go with LeBron James and Durant. I like that list a lot, and honestly gets me fired up for another NBA season ahead where, the time is ticking on some of these older guys there in LeBron James and Steph Curry. So gotta kind of, take it for what it is and enjoy the time that we get to watch these players as they continue to ball out in our league here. Time is always numbered for these athletes, so got to appreciate when you have them. Kind of flipping to a guy I profiled as a guy I thought the Bulls should make a run at. I thought he would fit well in what the Bulls' plans were and kind of meshing the some of that veteran talent or near veteran talent with some of these young guys. But Precious Achiuwa has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Miami Heat. This is a guy I profiled a while back as a target for the Bulls. This comes as no surprise as Miami was constantly looking for talent to surround Bam Adebayo with. And this serves as a reunion, actually, for the Heat's 20th pick in the 2020 NBA draft. He has shown productive stints in New York and Toronto over his first 2 seasons in the league. Precious Achiuwa he's definitely been productive in his time since being traded from Miami after getting drafted there. But the Heat have ultimately searched for size in the front court to support Bam Adebayo this upcoming season. season. And I think Precious Achiuwa is going to provide that for them. I like this move a lot for the Heat. Pat Riley and Alonzo Mourning, again, getting a move done to make this team more competitive. It's honestly impressive how competitive this Miami Heat team stays year after year and how they continue to successfully retool that roster. Just looking back and the way this move panned out, but in 2021, the Raptors acquired Precious Achiuwa and Goran Dragic from the Heat in a sign-and trade that brought Kyle Lowry to Miami ultimately. I think that this is a good move all in all for one of the Bulls' Eastern Conference foes here in Miami. I think that's going to stick them, if not at the bottom of the top 6, I think they're for sure going to be a play-in team this coming year. So just some news there on a guy I really thought was a good profile fit for the Bulls, but another Eastern Conference team snags him there. Just kind of rounding out today's show with some more league news. This is something that, if you guys remember, when I was going through the draft preview and everything in the post-draft analysis, Ace Bailey, and that was one of the more head-scratching decisions for him and his his representation to kind of be telling teams not to pick him inside the top 5 and actually threatening them that he would not report if they were to pick him there. And ultimately, this news comes as no surprise to me, but who knows who was really involved, if it was Ace Bailey kind of pushing them to do this. But he is ultimately parted ways with his manager, Omar Cooper. The decision was made in wake of his representatives telling a team inside the top 5 that they didn't want to, it to select him, and then he wouldn't report if it did. So I remember around draft time, this raised a lot of eyebrows for a young kid who has no NBA experience to this point, is honestly still one of the younger guys to be taken in the draft out of Rutgers. Kind of doing things the way that he did during the pre-draft process had a lot of people kind of wide-eyed going, what is this kid doing? So it's kind of interesting to me, but ultimately he parts ways with his manager, and I don't know if this is kind of a cover-up to kind of make him look better. I'm not sure if Ace Bailey was also involved in kind of wanting to stay away from certain teams, but if it goes that it was his manager and his representation solely, usually you work and partner with your representation. So I guess we'll never know, but ultimately letting his manager go there and kind of starting fresh in hopes that the Utah Jazz faithful and his career can take a fresh turn as after a little bit of a choppy start there pre-draft. So Ace Bailey, one of the more exciting players this game's seen in some time. I'm excited to watch him play for the Utah Jazz this upcoming season, and ultimately he will kind of shed that distraction in hopes of focusing on ball there. So just an interesting piece of news there. Overall, lighter show on the NBA news side. We are so close to NBA basketball kicking off. I want to thank all you guys for joining me on another episode of Bulls Latest today. Hit that like and subscribe button. It goes a long way for this channel. I really do appreciate you guys, each and every one of you tuning in, and we will see you guys tomorrow.